Heart First leadership isn't what you say, it's how you show up, how you regulate, how you communicate, and how you execute when it matters most. We are Heidi and Ryan Sawyer, and you are listening to the Heart First Leadership Podcast.
Welcome, friends. I have a very special guest today, a man by the name of John Bright. He is a world leader in consciousness. Now, this human being has been an incredible force in my life as a mentor. I originally was introduced to him by Greg Amundsen. If you don't know who Greg Amundsen is, he's one of the very first CrossFitters, right? An incredible biblical scholar, unbeatable mind, a part of that tribe, and just doing so amazing, incredible, amazing things in the world. But he led me to John, and we had conversations that have just continued over the last couple of years, which led me down a path of understanding transcendental meditation and making that a part of my practice. John's resume is simple, but yet profound. He has a BA from Princeton University. We graduated in 1966 in Arabic Studies and International Relations. And he also has an MA from New York University in the same field. He grew up in California. He's been a transcendental meditation teacher since 1970 and has been lecturing and consulting on consciousness in the Silicon Valley since the 80s and up to the present moment. So he's also one of the kind of leaders or serving on boards, different boards in the global transcendental meditation organization. So he lives in this conversation of consciousness. And that's what we're here to talk about today. So John, I am just so internally grateful that you're here to have a conversation with me. And I'm excited to learn something new because I know every single time we talk, I learn something new.
It's true, Ryan. I mean, I've enjoyed every one of our conversations. And one of the things that drives them is your own deep insight and own experience in this world of, transformational growth, I think, is a word that's used now to describe what I have for a long time called growth of consciousness.
I love that.
Or development of higher states of consciousness. And it's a fascinating subject. I mean, to meet Greg was also a wonderful thing. Here's a guy, who trains boxers and MMA fighters, and he's coming to learn how to settle his mind to be able to be in that turbulent, aggressive space and yet have that inner balance, that inner calmness.
Yeah. So I'm going to come back to that inner calmness. I'm actually reading a book right now called The Inner Game of Tennis. There's also the inner game of golf and the inner game of stress. And this inner game is really the key to success. Right. And that's what we're talking about. But before we dive in and start to go down that road, I would love for you to spend a few minutes kind of giving us an idea of what led you to this lifestyle. But what led you to just diving all into consciousness and transcendental meditation and from a very early, this was 50, 60 years ago, something like that. Yeah.
Well, I think all of us who find ourselves intrigued by the possibility to live more, and by that I mean to understand more about how life works. At some point, we recognize that we have to understand how our own mind works. And I don't know, in my education, in my studies, in my readings, I would come across highly creative people. And one consistent thread that ran through their lives was that at some point in their life, they would have this transcending experience. I'll use the word transcending. That has a precise meaning, but in this context, it means a glimpse, either momentary or lasting a little bit longer, into awareness being more aware and seeing life more deeply. And again, consistently, these individuals would report that after that experience, they were more creative and more insightful and more happy. And so my thought was, why aren't we being taught this in school?
Right.
Why do I have to kind of dig around to find this? Why isn't this front and center? It was a little talked about in philosophy. You could find it in literature, but it wasn't really something that was part of the curriculum. So that led me to seeing the connection that some of these people had a tool that they used to access higher consciousness. And it was typically called something to do with this word meditation. So I thought, well, I made up my own form of meditation. I used to go and stand. I would go outside and stand in front of a tree. I may have shared this with you, Ryan.
I'm not
sure. A few feet away from the tree, and I would stare at the tree with the intention of that quieting my mind. And what would happen instead? I mean, it worked to some degree, but usually, since I wasn't blinking, tears would start streaming down my face. Then a little later, I had some classmates at university who had learned Zen meditation. So then I learned Zen and practiced that for a few years in New York City, went regularly to the Zendo, loved it, was deeply appreciative of the Zen aesthetic and just the idea of sitting. And then some other friends learned TM around this time. This was somewhere towards the later 60s. And, it took them a while to persuade me. But as you may know, people that have learned TM are pretty persuasive, and they feel like they found like some talisman or some pot of gold at the end of a rainbow. And that they feel that it's like a very special, unique thing. And that's how I felt the first time I did it. I thought, oh, wow. This is what I was looking for. My body got deeply rested. My breath got very quiet in the very first TM session. And yet inside I was, that word you referred to, aware, awake, more. I felt more awake, and yet my mind wasn't so agitated as it was prior to that. So, and my next thought was, wow, I'd love to teach this. And then I found myself a couple of years later on a teacher training course and meeting the founder of TM, a man named Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. He was very well known, prominent on Life magazine and Time magazine in the 60s and 70s, and whose work in the transformational space, especially in the popularization of TM, I would say really has laid the groundwork for the public being open now to apps for meditation. And now it's not quite so rare as it was at that time. It's really seen as a practical tool.
We are all leaders. If you're ready to stop waiting and start impacting your environment in a powerful way, we want to connect with you. Click the Book Now link in the show notes to book a call with a Heart First coach and discover what Heart First leadership can look like in your life and in your environment. Now back to the show.
It just encourages me that that's going to continue to be the trend. And, based upon everything that I now know about how the mind works and how we can train the mind and how we can liberate ourselves from all that, whether it's TM or whether it's Zen meditation or witnessing process or whatever, all these different types of meditations out there. I've experienced everything that I've come across. Anyway, I've tried it all and been trained by multiple different types of, obviously disciplines. And it always is just amazing to me. Like, why aren't we learning this from day one? Like, why isn't a first grader, learning breath awareness, and we can progress in a just very easy fashion that allows for our culture to be at a completely different level of consciousness because of the practice, and the science behind it is there. And it's just, man, when are we going to get on board collectively? Right. It's a burning question. So thank you for sharing that, John. I appreciate that. And, I want to just pull back a little bit, and because there's even times I had a great conversation even this weekend recently about awareness and consciousness. It lasted for hours over dinner with Mark Devine from Unbeatable Mind, former Navy SEAL commander. Sat and had dinner with him on Saturday night. And I was learning at every single moment of that conversation. I'm just going, I would love to hear from you just in the most simplistic, relatable way. How would you explain what is consciousness? Like, what are we talking about? What is this conversation really about?
It's a wonderful question. And as that question is asked by more and more people and answered by those of us who've had that experience directly, one, and as science continues its quest to understand what's happening in the brain, in the blood, the biochemistry, what's happening in the cardiovascular system, and then what happens in performance as a result of those physical changes. I think your earlier point about when are we going to get on board, it's coming fast. It's coming so fast now. The way there are two ways to think of consciousness. One is really the mega, what we might call the mega picture. And in the model that I am educated in by my mentor, by Maharishi, and which really informs all of the ancient traditions, there's a fundamental underlying singular unified something, whatever language we use to describe that source material, that creator material. In this model, in this paradigm, that's what consciousness is. So, of course, the beauty of that is that also I'm a human being and I'm conscious. So what does that mean about me and consciousness? And therein lies the tremendous potential of this investigation into and personal exploration of consciousness, because it means, okay, if the ground state of creation is consciousness, and I'm conscious, and yet I'm not living what I would call, that primordial energy and intelligence, and these words like omnipresent, omniscient, all-embracing compassion. I've heard those words, but what does it mean experientially?
Right.
Because I'm conscious, then I can explore what it means to be aware of something, which is what meditation is, really.
Right.
We're sitting there, depending on what you're practicing, your eyes may be closed or not. In TM, we close our eyes. In TM, we take the ordinary everyday experience, which is I'm conscious of you on the screen, and I'm conscious of your speech. And so I close my eyes and I'm no longer conscious of seeing now. So I just have that sound value is there. And in TM, we take the process of hearing internally and we experience it at reducing volume. So there I am, I'm aware, and I'm aware of my thought process at these quieter levels. And I'm aware, and what I'm aware of is getting less and less. And then there's nothing there for me to be aware of. That's where the word transcendent comes from. I go beyond the ordinary experiencing process, which is what awareness delivers to the human. I go beyond being aware of everything, and suddenly, what does awareness have to be aware of? That's a question for you.
What is left?
What is left when awareness isn't aware of something?
I just had this conversation with a client, and I'm not using consciousness in the conversation. I'm using basically when we let go of the surface level thoughts and, kind of the who am I question, right? Well, I'm Ryan Sawyer. I'm 44 years old. I'm a coach, author, speaker. No, you start to let go of all these things, like the roles, the identifications, the attachments, right? All of these different surface level. When what is left is what is pure and what
Beautiful.
is untouchable and what is never afraid, never scared, all knowing, infinite intelligence. And that's something that we can learn how to get out of this limited conscious mind that rationalizes, that judges, that is evaluated and calculating. And that's a good thing to be able to do, to be conscious.
To say
right?
the least. To say
right?
the least.
That's
yes.
a good thing to do. But it can become overbearing and over-analyzing and over-judgmental and these things to where we then suffer in that limited mind and we don't have the awareness of this unlimited aspect of ourselves. So we learn how to go touch this unlimited component of ourselves, to be aware of it, to deepen our connection to it, and then to expand our capacity to operate from it, right? That's
awesome. Perfect.
So when we transcend, whether it's through TM or other practices, we are getting out of our limited mind into our unlimited mind. And this could be related to sport, to relationship, to life, to business, where people are finding flow state, let's say, right? Someone's in the flow, like that's because they are no longer in that analytical, judging, rationalizing, calculating mind. What is left is purity, is wholeness, is oneness, is that part of our consciousness that is never scared.
That's so touching what you've said. I mean, that was a perfect description of all of the qualities of that, what I'm using the term consciousness, in the context of, or with the definition of it being, just as you said, that primordial intelligence and energy that creates everything. And, just to kind of take our conversation a little further, and kind of come back to the first point that you brought out, Ryan, when are we going to get on board? What we find now is that the conversation in science, in philosophy, in a major way, led by my boss, a man named Dr. Tony Nader, who is an MD, a PhD from MIT and Harvard, who's written a book which you've read called One Unbounded Ocean of Consciousness. It reminds me of that picture behind you, because there in that picture you can see there's the ordinary consciousness, kind of little waves lapping up on the shore, crashing and disappearing. And, there's the moment of excitement. Oh, I'm rising up. And then boom, it crashes. And ordinary life is lived in that sort of a place where we have a happy thought and I'm happy. And then that's replaced by a less happy thought and I'm less than happy. And we kind of live in that turbulence. And if that's all...
The surface chop.
The surface chop, yeah.
I love using the ocean as a way to identify our experience of mind, body, spirit, right? The thoughts keep being that surface chop where in one moment I'm having a good thought, so therefore I'm good. Right. The next moment, I don't like that thought. Therefore I'm not doing very good right now. And being caught up and identifying with our thoughts, right? Well, we can go beneath that, and beneath that is feelings and emotions and then sensations. And you keep going down that natural state of the mind, which is stillness and wonder, where we still notice that there's the chop happening up there, but we're not partaking, right? We're not partaking in it.
Well, as we keep going down, as you said, as consciousness is aware of quieter levels of its own functioning, because remember, consciousness vibrates, the source vibrates and gives rise to all of the evolutionary, all of the manifestations of its vibratory state, which then coalesces into material levels. And those material subatomic, atomic, molecular levels then coalesce into the matter that we recognize as my body and its organs and other bodies and celestial bodies, meaning planets and systems. So the vast intelligence of the universe is found at that deepest level of the ocean, which on its surface is diverse and turbulent.
Mm-hmm.
And so to transcend means to go beyond the turbulence, to go beyond the ordinary awareness of stuff, and then awareness turns on to itself and recognizes, oh my goodness, here I am, but I'm not caught up in my thoughts. Here I am, but I'm not asleep. Here I am, but I'm not even aware of my body. And that experience also, as you beautifully said, Ryan, if we have a tool to do that regularly, if we do it, and in TM, we do it twice a day. We do it in the morning for 20 minutes. We do it in the afternoon sometime, before dinner sometime for 20 minutes. That begins to retool the physiology, the brain, the blood, the breath, which has become accustomed to the choppy surface of life. So it has an ancient habit of just functioning in a particular way that produces rational, worried daily life. And that old style physiology begins to be cultured, retooled, to simultaneously have inner bliss, inner awakeness, inner calm, inner peace, along with, the awesome challenges of daily life.
Right.
It's interesting. You were talking about speaking with the Unbeatable Mind leader, and we were talking about Greg Amundsen and his martial arts background. This knowledge was given in ancient times to those who were the leaders of society, who had, huge responsibility for protecting others, because it was recognized that in that leadership role, it was necessary that they be able to have access to that inner peace, and then be able to lead others in that experience and that understanding of how to develop oneself, to be able to do anything, to know anything, to be everything, to have that experience of cosmic awareness.
Well, that makes me want to go down that road of what it means to be a leader in that whole piece.
Yeah, that's a whole other.
I think I'm going to save that for a different conversation.
Good.
And I'm just having a blast, because I want people to know, like when you and I connect, this is exactly what we do. We have these type of conversations and we go back and forth. And so getting other people to hear these incredible conversations that I'm able to have with people who are so studied and practiced and have their own experience is so transformative. So I love it. Let's talk about awareness for a moment, because I believe that that's something that gets breezed over a little bit. This idea of aware, because you said something important that I think somebody who maybe hasn't had that experience would not be aware of it. Like that, to be aware that you are aware, right? It's a fairly deep concept. And, we think that we're aware, like we think we know why we think the way we think, why we feel the way we feel, why we act the way we act, why we're getting the results that we're getting. And we're kind of caught up in the turbulent part of our lives, in those thoughts and in those emotions and in that chop, right? And my experience is every single time that I have a moment of awakening, let's call it, of sorts, where there's a new realization, there's a new perspective, there's a new plateau where I'm able to see a larger view, I have transcended in one fashion or another, then I recognize, like, oh, I wasn't able to see the fact that I couldn't see that. I recognize that before this moment, I didn't know what I didn't know. I wasn't aware of what I wasn't aware of, right? And you can't see the label from inside the bottle. So when we're in that turbulent experience, we think we're living our lives, but there's a level of just being kind of stuck in our own conditioning our own expectations, the own meaning that we place on things to a level where it is what it is. I am who I am. This is how the world works. And it's kind of like, well, is it? Like, are you? You know?
Let's look at that example. I mean, you've drawn a really clear picture of what everyday life is like. And you said, I'm aware of this and I'm aware of that and I'm aware of these other things and all these challenges and all these emotions going through my mind and my worries and my great plans. But the common feature for all of that content, let's call it, is this word, I'm aware of it. So if we think of awareness, if we want to draw a distinction between awareness and consciousness, we can say that awareness is the individual flow or the individual experience of consciousness that enables us to experience everything. So if we think of awareness that way, you could sort of think of it like my glasses. Well, I'm looking through my glasses, and as you said, you don't see the label from inside the bottle. I'm not aware of my glasses. I'm just aware of you there, and I'm aware of the window and aware of my surroundings. And awareness is like that. We don't see it because it's through it that we're seeing. And so for awareness to experience what it is, we need to reduce the volume of what we're aware of. And so again, that's the transcending experience. That's why it's not an optional thing for, quote, spiritual awakened people. This is something that every child needs to learn as they're growing up, as you said earlier. They need to, we teach them A, B, C, D when they're in first grade, but we don't teach them where A comes from. We don't teach them where that thought comes from. And where that thought comes from is what it enables them to be aware of A and B and C, and then to access that memory that they gain as they learn A, B, C, D, and then all the words that make up that A, B, C, D makes up, and all the literature and the mathematics and interactions with people. You used the word success before. Success really, if we really want to dig into that word, success means accomplishing what we want to accomplish. And why we want to accomplish that is it feeds us with happiness. When we accomplish something, it stirs inside of me that ocean of consciousness, which is a field of bliss. And because it's a field of bliss, even though it's out of sight, as we start to transcend, as we take that inward journey, the mind moves in that direction spontaneously, because each step in that direction of kind of quieter experience is closer to that silent ocean of consciousness inside. And so the mind gravitates there. It wants to go there because each step in that direction is more charming. And so it doesn't really require any special effort. In fact, effort, as we've discussed, kind of gets in the way. Intentionality, all of our rational and our analytical powers and our concentrative powers kind of get in the way of that innocence of entering, what in biblical language is called the kingdom of heaven. It's the children that get in because they're innocent.
Yeah. Well, I've been working with youth, and right. I'll teach them just some basic concepts of what we're talking about. And I swear 10 minutes later, they come out of a little experience of being still and just letting it be natural. I said, this is easy. Just take it as it comes, right? And just whatever it is. And it's no real specific, practice that I'm even teaching them, but they come back with this way of explaining their experience where I'm like, I'm so jealous. It's so easy for them. Yeah. My son, who's 9 years old, we did a 15-minute meditation this morning together. He has a big goal that he has in life. And I told him, I was like, if you want, first of all, why do you want the goal? And if you want to go after this thing that's, 3 months from now, then you need to train to have the experience you want to have. To derive what you actually need to learn from this experience, you need to train and prepare your mind and your body to be able to actually, have a good experience. So we made an agreement. I said, I will take you through that. I will, fund the whole thing. I'll do the whole thing, but you have to train. Right.
Training is critical, isn't it?
Yeah. So training meant, time in silence. It meant moving the physical body. It meant, journaling and gratitude practice. So he created a morning ritual. But this morning was the first morning of that training. And he comes out of it with all these insights and all these things. Almost like, that you just explained 2 years worth of internal work for somebody in their mid 30s or mid 40s, right?
Yes,
he's 90.
Yes.
And he's so close to that source, and it's just amazing to watch how the mind is able to get there when there's less in the way,
Well, kudos to you for opening him up to that possibility and guiding him in that inward.
It's all him. I'm telling you, John, it's all him. He's the one leading the charge. I'm just like, I'm here to guide you if you want it. And he asks for it. So I say, okay, let's go.
That's beautiful.
Let's go. The piece that I heard you say, this is my term, this is my word, not yours, is, there's like a filter. You're looking through your glasses, you said, and you see the window and you see the things, you see me, right? And how do we know of what we're looking through our awareness, right? But what we're looking at is what we're actually seeing. Does that make sense? Like that we're not, what we're looking at isn't being colored by our own expectations and conditioning. Like how do we know, right?
It definitely, we do know that it is being colored by that.
Okay.
Because two people look at the same ocean picture and behind you, and one person has some memory of being in a shipwreck. So they look at that thing and suddenly they're thinking, oh my goodness, that's terrifying. Somebody else is a surfer and they say, well, yeah, that's nice. I don't see, and it doesn't look like a big break today.
Right.
Somebody else, just loves that salt water and they're thinking, oh, this is for me. So it's completely filtered by the past experience.
And, this is a point that I think is really important for people to understand is that like each individual's experience of life is incredibly uniquely different. I mean, to such a level, I've joked multiple times, and I maybe have even said it on previous podcasts, that it actually amazes me that two people can sit in a room together and not want to kill each other. Because moment by moment, every single experience I've had is completely different and unique than yours. And how I perceive the world and the lens that I'm looking through, is completely different and unique compared to yours. Right. And so how do we know, how do we have an experience of knowing that there's what I'm seeing is just the accumulation of my past experiences versus what is real or true? Like, how do I know when I'm looking at a quote unquote, an illusion, right? Because what brought this conversation up in my mind, and I'm trying to illustrate it properly where people can understand it, is, you said that trying hard can get in our way, right? So if you were to pull up the top 10 motivational compilations on Google,
right? Yeah.
Nine out of 10, if not all 10 of them, would talk about you got to grind, right? Push hard, and all these things, and it's coming from successful people, and it's coming from people who are quote unquote successful in the sense that what we have, verified as success: money, movie star, athlete, right? But like what we're having a conversation about is like success is progress. We are growth oriented systems, right? So success is progress. But how do I know when I look at something that what I'm looking at is what I really am seeing, or is it what I'm just perceiving, right? And because until I learned this idea of letting go and surrender, and that the balance between hard and soft, and the ability to recognize, like, when we try too hard, we actually keep ourselves from the experience, which is, I believe, what TM has taught me the most. Like, life is natural. It can be easy, and you can just take it as it comes to you rather than trying to force and drive an outcome, right? Things will come to you when you stop trying to get the puzzle pieces to fit in a certain way.
My mentor had an expression that points to what you're talking about, Ryan. He said, real efficiency in life means to do less and accomplish more. So if we learn how to think more quietly, then our body follows along and it breathes less. It starts to rest. And the first scientific research on transcendental meditation, which was some of the first research on any meditation, it followed along some early studies on brainwaves in Zen monks. That research was done in 1970 at UCLA Medical School and published in Science magazine, and then replicated a year later at Harvard Medical School, published in Scientific American. And they found that these TM folks, people like you and I mean, by that I mean they're not just ordinary folks, were experiencing a unique state of mind-body, which they called a state of restful alertness. Mm-hmm. Now, those two properties aren't found together at the same time in any of the other three ordinary states that a human being experiences. We spend our lives being either asleep or dreaming or awake. Those are the three gears that we have available to us. And we know those gears scientifically because we know what the physiological signatures are of sleeping and dreaming and being awake. And they also know that drinking alcohol or listening to poetry or listening to music or jogging or hypnosis or any of these things that we think of as relaxing that we do while we're awake don't take the body to the same level of rest that sleeping and dreaming do. Mm-hmm. When a person transcends, however they transcend, then the level of rest with TM meditators they found was much greater than during sleep. In these two studies, the level of rest was found to be twice as deep as during sleeping or dreaming. Now, the significance of that takes us back to what you were saying, what you were asking. How do I know that what I'm looking at isn't being influenced by all the stuff in my perception? It is. We know that it is. Mm-hmm. Everything that I see is based on the color and cleanliness of the spectacles, meaning the quality of perception that I've developed in this immaculate system, which is not immaculate now because it has all this stuff stored up in it, all these past experiences, which we call stress. So the value of that deeper rest that comes with transcending is that the body starts to discharge in the same way that it does when it's sleeping and dreaming. It discharges the damage, the stresses we accumulate in the day, and without that we don't feel clear and aware during the day. Yeah. So transcending then suddenly opens a window where the body is able to begin to offload the long accumulated and deep-rooted stress, which is what causes that limited, prejudiced, we can call it, partial perception.
Yeah. So let me see if this hits your point. I try to bring things back to a more relatable, simpler way. That's how my mind doesn't work quite as complex as yours does. If I'm looking out through my windshield of my car and there's bugs all over it, right? And it's raining, or whatever, and I'm not using my windshield wipers, I'm having a hard time seeing where I'm going and having any confidence that I'm very safe in where I'm going. Right.
Beautiful.
And if it's dark out, it's even worse. If my headlights, I got one headlight out. I mean, oh my goodness. Right. And, whether we're talking about, let's just talk about just meditation in general. Right. And meditation in general is this ability to, and I think, what did you say? To become aware of, like to become familiar with. And this is my two favorite definitions: to become familiar with or aware of, basically the self, this part of us that is coloring what we're seeing. So what we're becoming aware of is, the rain on the windshield and the bugs and the out headlight. Like, oh, I'm not seeing clearly, because when I start to see that and I recognize the imperfections of it, I'm also becoming aware of the other part of me, this unlimited pure part. So I'm able to differentiate between the two. I'm aware of both ends of the spectrum.
Wonderful.
Right? Okay. So I'm aware of, yeah.
Yeah. Just let me jump in. What happens is when we become aware of that bigger part of us, the part that's not the bugs and the spatter on the windshield.
Yeah.
That experience triggers the windshield wipers and the squirter.
Right. So that's
where you were going.
That's where I was going, is that every time we touch it, right, there's a level of excavation, right?
Oh, beautiful. Perfect.
Right? We're excavating out the garbage, right?
Yes.
We're cleansing it out. And that's what it feels like to me anyway. And, whether you're doing it through metacognition and all kinds of different components of awareness, or what, concentration practices, this idea of relaxed concentration is something that I teach to athletes, as well. And that's a whole nother conversation, but the ability to go touch, the awareness of what I call pure potential. Okay. And then come back and realize, oh, my windshield's a little cleaner. Oh, hey, my windshield wipers are working now. Oh, it stopped raining. The sun has come up. Eventually, over time, now it's daytime out. I don't even need my headlights, right? I can even pull the car over and clean the windshield. Now I'm looking through a much cleaner, still maybe not perfect, right? And to know of, who knows if we ever get it to be completely clean. But that's the impact of meditation, as we become able to recognize our own impurities and how to purify those impurities to be able to see more clearly. Therefore, we see more possibility. We connect to others easier, and all of these, and our nervous system is able to restore to homeostasis. I mean, we're able to then allow our body to be this miracle that heals. I mean, all of these components are the outcome and the secret, or the magic, what I call the magic of meditation, right?
It's magical. That's a great word. And it's even more magical because it's in my experience, what I would say is, in the sort of previous paradigm of consciousness, we had to sort of see and grapple with our impurities and our limitations.
Yeah.
It was important to understand them and to dig them up and look at them and examine them.
Yeah.
When we transcend and we begin to contact that bigness of consciousness, then spontaneously, without our having to attend to it, those windshield wipers are just doing their thing. We almost don't even notice them. We're just still looking out through the window onto the glory of the dawn that's now rising, and we're seeing it more clearly.
Yeah.
And more clearly and more clearly. And that's where that word you used earlier, training, it's critical. It has to be a practice, because we're really culturing this physical system, which has been damaged and needs to be reclaimed.
Well, so there's a level of preventative work, therapeutic work, developmental work that goes into all these different pieces, as well, then also the transcendental as well, right? And they're all the motivator factor to do what I call, doing the work. Like, I mean, the secret sauce of transformation, in my opinion, that people who are wanting to transform their life, change something in their life, overcome something as an obstacle that is perceived obstacle or otherwise, without that tool, without the knowledge to be able to actually practice and facilitate that for yourself, and support from somebody who's been down the path that can help guide you to make it the road a little less bumpy. I mean, I've had incredible meditative teachers, and obviously you being one of them over the course of the last decade. And, to be able to have that mentorship to walk that path, like they're taking a boulder and trying to push it up a mountain. Right. When they can 80 to 90. I used to say 80, and I'm now going to say 90 because of some current knowledge that I have been exposed to. I'm saying 90% of what we call as obstacles, challenges, trials in our lives are created by the windshield being dirty.
Yeah.
Right. If we will just pause, breathe, slow down, let it be natural and come to us in the way of meditation, able to eradicate those things.
Maybe it's even 100%.
Maybe
caused by.
Well, transformation is more likely to happen in a way where now instead of trying to push the boulder up the mountain, you just let go of the boulder and it goes down the mountain for you, right? And it's just like, oh, I didn't want to go up. I didn't even have to go up. I was just thinking I had to go up. No, actually, I want to go back down this mountain, and it's an easier way to get to where I want to go, right? I mean, that's the way I look at it anyway. And it's so important to me. Part of my mission in life is to help people to realize the power of it, the magic of it, and to become practitioners. Like if you don't sit down and practice,
right,
nothing's going to be obtained. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Who was it? William Blake, who said something when the windows or the doors of perception are cleaned, then one sees life as it truly is, mm-hmm. infinite.
Yeah.
So we've heard that quote, but without a practice, we're just left with inspiration.
Right. Well,
we want more than inspiration.
Well, and to be honest with you, information without integration leads to frustration. Right. So
that's great.
If I don't take this knowledge and actually apply it and practice it, right, and have my own experience, that's the main word, is an experience. Because honestly, even what we're talking about with consciousness and awareness, they're still just these words that we're trying to use.
Yeah.
The truth of them is an experience that you have, right? That we're able to have this conversation because we both have touched it, but you have to have your own experience.
I'm sure a lot of your listeners are just those people who have that access to this inner field of unboundedness, or at least at some time have, and because of that memory, are looking either for more or just to expand their knowledge base.
Yeah, looking for more. I think it's an important point. Like, is there more to life than this? If that's a question you ask yourself, the answer is yes.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
And there's always more. There's always more.
And coming back to your analogy of your question around awareness, if we think of awareness like as a light, then when the room is dark, meaning when there's bugs on the windshield, and if the light that we're using is dim, then we're just kind of aware of this blotches in front of us. We're in a dark room with no light. And just one little flick, the light goes on and you see everything clearly. Then everything starts to, we're able to, as you said, clean things up easily.
It sounds to me, you just explained this like room that's dark and you can't see out of it. I used to explain that as what it felt like to be depressed years ago when I battled with depression. Mm-hmm. And that's there was no windows, no doorway. I can't see out. Nobody else can even see in. Like if I could just peek, if there was a doorway, if someone would just peek it open to where some light would come in, like I'd be able to go towards it. Right. And that's like, even in the mental health world, like this glimpse of goodness, just a moment, just a glimpse where the light peeks into our awareness, into our consciousness, where we realize, oh, there is something else. I might be able to have a different experience of life. Like that's gold for transformation, right? Absolute gold. And that can be touched. That part of us we can turn the light on by doing this type of inner work.
Well, the light is awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And as we enable awareness to be aware of itself, whatever we put our awareness on grows.
Yeah.
I put my awareness on the window, and my brain functioned in a specific way to produce that image for me of window. Now I turn my awareness to you, and my brain functions in a different way to produce the image of you on the screen with this background. So whatever I'm putting my attention on, I'm molding the plasticity of my physiology to conform to that experience. So if I've had a lifetime of experience that is always within boundaries, then that unboundedness of awareness I haven't experienced. And when we transcend, that's the one experience that triggers the whole brain to function in an integrated, coherent way.
Mm-hmm.
So I know our time is starting to get on. So please just let me know what you want to.
Oh, I think that's a wonderful place to wrap it up. This has been an excellent conversation, and I just appreciate your time. I want you to give you a moment just to say, like, what is up in front for you? What's going on? What's new in your life? And just what are you working on?
Well, I'm totally stoked that the Golden State Warriors just took their fourth NBA championship. My
Awesome.
family here is just, reveling in that. And but beyond that, I'm looking forward to a summer of continued exercise and doing my practice and continuing teaching. And really, I want to thank you this is the first podcast I've been on.
Oh, no, really?
I'm usually lecturing to groups that, that are either in person or on Zoom that are, there for some advanced knowledge about consciousness. And, but you've now inspired me to look into how to create a podcast. So I'd like to have another offline conversation about how to do that.
Anytime. Yeah. We're always here for each other, brother. So I appreciate you so much. And just look forward to continuously learning from you for as long as we're blessed to share some space. So
we have a few more breaths left, and I look forward to the same.
That's right. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for listening. Remember, leaders go first. Alignment matters. And the environment that you create is the legacy you'll leave. We'll see you on the next episode.